With the Wallace Lake oyster contamination outbreak still fresh in the minds of many, conservationists further south at Port Stephens are attempting to raise environmental awareness about the unrelated Wallace Creek. To them, it's becoming a poison artery to Port Stephens. When the area's naturally occurring sulphate soils are exposed through drainage work or clearing, they react to form sulphuric acid, which in turn floods into the waterway.
Wallace Creek's been damaged by over-draining acid sulphate soils, bringing acid water into here. The drains are far too deep and well into acid sulphate levels, whereas these levels should never have been touched.
Acid outflow leads to fish kills, suppressed breeding cycles and the destruction of plants and crustaceans.
The coastal area along the north coast of New South Wales is under threat with their estuaries because they're draining land for development, sometimes farming. The swamps really should be left as swamps, and it's proven now. But the thing is, these drains still sit there and really need to be blocked up and new drains put in that are friendly drains above acid sulphate levels.
Resuming at 8 for 80, Wallsend needed 42 runs for a first innings victory, but when Steve Story was caught in the third over of the day, Waratah looked to have it all sewn up. Tailenders Nathan Holloway and James Eyre were left with the big task of hauling in the total, but their efforts lasted only a few balls, Wallsend all out for just 88. With the first innings victory to Waratah, the Tigers tried gamely to turn the tables in a wild chase for an outright result, but it didn't look such a daunting task when opener Matt Trail was caught for 5. That wicket was soon followed by another, and Waratah was reeling at 2 for 9. Although it was slow going, Waratah steadied the innings and Atia was 4 for 82. The shine had gone off Wallsend's game and they conceded soon after. Waratah Mayfield, the new premiers. Great conditions for the newest event of Surfest. 1 metre sets gave competitors plenty to work with in the Indigenous Pro. After yesterday's round 1 heats, 4 finalists were left to fight out the decider. Michael Darcy from Redhead led the local challenge, while Tim Pager, Andrew Ferguson and Ty Arnold also made waves. Arnold was outstanding, the Central Coast surfer manoeuvring his way to win the first final. Ferguson was runner-up. Another full round of competition this afternoon and Arnold was again the one to beat. He advanced straight to the final with effortless wins in the heats before turning on another faultless display to win the second round final. The 16-year-old will try for a whitewash result in the last round tomorrow. Making it a Surfest extravaganza, the inaugural 1 kilometre ocean swim. As some took it seriously, others swam for fun and the field spread out immediately. Leading the way and first back to shore was Swansea Belmont's Nat McGregor. Organisers expect the ocean swim to be made an annual event.
The Hunter Mariners will field an unchanged lineup for the match against Penrith despite the disappointing loss to Canberra at the weekend.
We were beaten by Canberra. I don't think we were disgraced and I'd like to give them at least one more chance at making it right.
Robbie Ross and Noel Goldthorpe are likely starters despite injury, while John Carlaw should be right after more physio to a corked thigh. The Mariners have gone up against some pretty tough away games, including Auckland, Adelaide and Canberra, eager to perform for their coach. Mariners coach Graham Murray is calling on his side to focus.
Yeah, we've probably got to play the game a little bit quicker, I suppose. And if we do see something that presents itself, if we do see a gap, we've just got to really seize it rather than maybe take the one more ruck. When the option's on, we've got to make sure we make good use of it.
And a little support from home-side fans wouldn't be unwelcome.
Oh, it'd be lovely to have people there, but I mean, we're struggling to get them to our games here. I don't know why they travel.
Millions of dollars have been spent trying to improve Aboriginal health, but the prognosis still isn't good. Throughout Australia, the Aboriginal incidence of heart and respiratory disease, diabetes and kidney disorders is still far higher than the rest of the population.
We have to have people in the right positions that understand the culture, that understand what success is on Aboriginal terms and what's appropriate on Aboriginal terms.
At a special conference, Aboriginal medical students and doctors looked at ways to encourage more of their people to take up a career in medicine. There are only 50 Aboriginal medical students throughout Australia and just 26 practicing graduates. Figures the Indigenous community says is out of proportion to their population. They believe more Indigenous doctors would play a major role in improving Aboriginal health. Letitia Pedersen is a third-year medical student at Newcastle University. From the country's far north, she knows firsthand what problems Indigenous students face. Conference organisers say the meeting will help them to find ways to recruit more Aboriginal medical students, help those already studying and provide professional support for graduates in the field. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News. Complaints about the state of Newcastle's parks, median strips and road verges far outweigh any others made to council. These concerns prompting the General Manager to take action. Robert Gibbons has announced plans to streamline departments so that resources can be reallocated to the areas that need it.
Council hasn't had a youth worker nor economic development staff, so we have to adjust our resources to better meet community expectations.
The council plans to assign teams to look after particular areas of the city, and Mr Gibbons says this will ensure open spaces are better maintained. He denied it was a plan to cut costs and says there'll be no jobs lost. Meanwhile, at Lake Macquarie Council, there are similar moves underway, with staff being reshuffled to accommodate a new planning strategy for the region, designed to control the mix of industrial, commercial and residential developments.
It won't really have any effect on the community at all, apart from the fact that within 2 years we'll have a strategic plan in place where the community will be able to see the future of Lake Macquarie.
The study will mean the closure of one division and the redeployment of staff to other vacancies within the council. The move is set to save the organisation around $60,000.
A symbolic breaking of ground which the state and federal governments say will break the cycle of death and devastation linked to the infamous stretch of road. In the past 5 years alone, 12 people have died and 61 suffered serious injuries in accidents on the Bulladila to Kalungaluk section of highway.
Today we commence, in a very historic sense, the beginning of the end of the old Pacific Highway.
The road, which takes in the notorious O'Sullivan's Gap and Wootton Bends, will be replaced by 22 kilometres of dual carriageway to the east at a cost of more than $120 million.
That's the single most important project in the upgrading of the highway.
The new work will cut travel times by up to 20 minutes. However, motorists will have to wait until sometime in 1999 to see the benefits. Till then, they'll still have to contend with the 60 bends, which make up one of Australia's most perilous sections of highway. While the community of Bulahdelah is happy for the injection of cash and jobs the project will bring, some from the town of Karua to the south aren't as pleased with highway upgrades further down the track. They fear a rumoured bypass of the town will ruin their businesses, confronting State Roads Minister Carl Scully at today's ceremony with claims they've been left out of the consultation process. Mr Scully's federal counterpart conceded there was room for improvement in the consultation process.
It's no good consulting with selected individuals. The whole community must be invited to participate.
The entire upgrading of the Pacific Highway will take 10 years. Phil Hind, NBN News.
It's the first national study in 10 years to investigate what today's teenagers choose to drink. While some parents may be horrified by the findings, to those in the health industry, the results come as no surprise. Conducted by the Australian Horticultural Corporation, the survey monitored 500 teenagers throughout Australia. It also found that 3 times as many young people buy sports drinks rather than juices, even though they know they're more expensive and not as healthy. What's concerning nutritionists is the impact such choices have on diet and health.
Well, sports drinks have a place for elite athletes in competition. But if they're sipped during the day, as with soft drinks, whether sugared or not, they do have a harmful effect on the enamel on the teeth.
1 in 4 teenagers said they received no guidance from parents about choosing drinks, prompting calls for parents to actively encourage their children to pick healthier alternatives. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
There are plans to build the new plant just kilometres from Raymond Terrace on an old quarry site and near where the area's existing landfill dump is filling fast. The American Bedminster company, which operates similar plants in Texas and Arizona, is the preferred tenderer for the $10 million construction of the plant.
The waste material goes into the cylinder, sewage sludge is added, green waste is added. It turns and burns for 3 days and then comes out the other end 80% as recycled compost material and 20% goes in landfill.
A preliminary contract is now in place after 2 years of investigations and negotiations. The plant will separate recyclables and reduce landfill by 80%, as well as turning out farm fertiliser. And if all goes to plan, will be operating by December next year.
It was fun and games as Australia's leading basketballers helped launch the Mitsubishi Challenge in none other than a Mitsubishi. 1997 is shaping up as a big year for the NBL, with officials claiming it'll be a case of quality basketball over quantity. The end of last season saw the axing of three clubs, Gold Coast, Geelong and the Hobart Tassie Devils. The NBL is now looking at introducing a second Sydney team. Moves are also afoot for Hobart to re-enter the competition. A confident Falcons captain Butch Hayes was flying the flag for Newcastle. Hayes is keen to better both last year's 12-14 win-loss record and this year's poor pre-season start.
In top form, a Top Gun sent sparks flying last night as he pulled off an amazing crash landing. The FA-18 Hornet was forced to make an emergency landing at Williamtown's RAF base with one engine down and a collapsed undercarriage. RAF emergency crews were on hand helping to avert a major disaster.
Everyone on the ground here did a wonderful job of getting things ready for me and came in for an arrested landing and no problems at all.
The damage to the Hornet's landing gear occurred while it was taking off from the aircraft carrier, the USS Independence, 500 kilometres out to sea. As it accelerated from 0 to 200 kilometres an hour in under 3 seconds, part of its landing gear collapsed, hitting a hatch cover which fell onto a seaman.
When the tip of the wing, the weapons pylon, hit that deck hatch cover, it slammed down on his legs, causing open compound fractures to both femurs in his leg.
The injured seaman was flown to hospital in Sydney, where he is now in a serious but stable condition. Today, an American accident investigation squad flew into Williamtown to repair the crippled jet. The main part of the runway closed for most of the day. The skies above the Williamtown RAF base were unusually quiet last night and for most of today, with a number of squadrons also forced to cancel their training flights while the American aircraft was marooned on the runway. It's been a dramatic 2 days for the USS Independence. On Tuesday, another mishap saw an aircraft smash into 2 helicopters. However, no one was hurt. The stung Hornet may be stranded at the RAF base for a number of days before it's fit to fly. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
They were out of finals contention and recently out of touch, but Robbie Ironside threw the form out the window. Newcastle took the lead to the break, but after only 1 minute of the second term, it was gone. A haunting fog also put its mark on the game before Shane Price headed through the visitors' skeleton defence. And when Troy Halpin instrumented another goal a minute later, one could have been forgiven for thinking it was Wembley. The goal spree continued, but this time for Marconi, captain Andy Harper led by example. Before Halpin found the magic touch again, his corner finding Matty Austin and a 4-2 Breakers lead. After arguably his best performance this season, Halpin then got due reward courtesy of David Lowe's pinpoint cross. "5-2 the result, Newcastle again on the right side of the scoreboard against one of the big names of the Ericsson Cup.
It's Kim Beazley's first visit to the
Eagle Spirit paid $4.10 and $1.50, the Quinella only $4.90 and the Trifecta nearly $80. Race 7 was the Caduceus Club of Newcastle Cup over 2,400 metres. And Imadeek returned $3.60 and $1.30, the Trifecta $36.20. As some prepared for the traditional crossing of the lake, others tried an alternative method. 310 of the region's best swimmers left Coal Point this morning for a 3.8 kilometre endurance to Belmont. It's an annual event and the field soon spread out. Most were just trying to improve their personal best, but for an elite few the challenge was to win. It started as a battle between two, Nat McGregor from Swansea Belmont and Maitland's Lee McFadgen, but after holding a narrow lead, McGregor shrugged off his opposition in the final kilometre to be first back to shore in 42 minutes and 10. More than a minute behind, Sydney's Craig Jackson emerged to finish second. Craig Scott made the men's trifecta while McFadgen slipped to fourth. Central Coast swimmer Madeline Phillips was outstanding in the women's. Her time of 44.50 was 5 minutes clear of her rivals.
Gee whiz, what a horrific accident. A couple of riders have been catapulted right into the air. Well, a very, very nasty incident in the Sidecar Masters final.
We really didn't consolidate it, and as you know, the game intensity fell away in the second half. We came up with a lot of errors. Had we started the game playing in that style, we would have probably lost the game.
Around 10,000 people commute daily from the Central Coast to Newcastle or Sydney. Less than half use public transport. The state government hopes its latest initiative will see more people leaving their cars in the garage and catching buses and trains.
Certainly this is one of the strategies that are being pursued by City Rail and Busways, I guess, in encouraging people to use public transport by improving the efficiency of ticketing over the whole of the network.
The Bus Plus system links train and bus travel, with commuters purchasing one ticket for unlimited use over 7 days. It's been running successfully in Sydney for years with government-owned buses. Now it's being trialled in Wyong with a view to linking private bus companies throughout the state to the City Rail network. Local operator Busways claims it will be a major boost for the industry.
Hopefully it will attract people who are not currently customers, car users, people who commute to the station by car.
The best thing is it saves time. It saves time for commuters because they don't have to queue. They can simply get the one ticket and use it on both modes of transport.
The Bus Plus system will be trialled in Gosford and Woy Woy next week. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
The international surfers checked in this afternoon. The Mark Richards Pro has again attracted the world's best to Newcastle. All are hoping to add their names to the elite honour roll of winners. It includes Tom Curran, Barton Lynch and 2-times champions Tom Carroll and Damien Hardman. Returning to defend the Pro is Brazilian Guilherme Hurdy, but history's against him. No one has scored back-to-back victories. Countryman Jocker Jr. is another expected to shine. After finishing 5th last year, he's back with big hopes of going that little bit better.
I don't know. I hope so. I try.
4-times world champion Kelly Slater won't compete, the American flag to be flown by Shane Beschen and Rob Machado, but 1997 may be a year for the locals. Newcastle duo Luke Egan and Matt Hoy are both given big chances, Hoy coming off a tremendous win in the Bells Beach Surfing Classic last week. Another local, wildcard entrant Christian McGall.
It's a great opportunity to surf against the best surfers in the world on my home beach.
A strong southerly whipped up big seas today. 2 to 2.5 metre waves are again forecast for the opening heats. Finals will be held on Sunday. Jonathan Upton, NBN News. Merriweather Golf Club hosted this afternoon's final round of the championships, 18 holes of match play in blustery conditions. Lambton High's Damien Murrell was too strong in the boys. The 17-year-old overcame a slow start to beat Stephen Hassett 4-2. Hassett was in it until a back nine blitz for Murrell sealed the victory. From the 11th, the two handicappers shot 3 under in 5 holes to seal the result. The girls' match went the distance. Michelle Nelson held a 2-hole lead at the par 3 16th until a rival from Wingham, Heidi Lucas, sunk this. It must have also sunk Nelson's concentration. A member of the state women's squad, she ran into trouble again on the 17th. Lucas chipped close, then Nelson missed her attempt to level. All square into the last, and again it came down to putting. Lucas read too much, while Nelson was on the mark. Both winners progressed to the state championships. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
It's Kim Beazley's first visit to the Hunter as opposition leader as the ALP travels the long road to the next election. The region is Labor heartland and an important area for the party to gauge how well it's doing.
We want to satisfy ourselves that the people who constitute the Labor heartland are having their needs addressed.
And those people were willing listeners this evening when the opposition leader spoke of the ALP's future direction. The party hasn't been performing well in the opinion polls and is rethinking its policy approach. Mr Beasley says he believes the people of the Hunter are concerned about jobs and the region's growth, in particular the future of BHP in the city.
We are concerned that the enormous changes that people in Newcastle in particular have instituted over the last decade should be honoured by a continuation of the steel industry.
On the opposition leader's agenda tomorrow, a visit to the marginal seat of Paterson.
David Clark has received the Young Investigator Award at a national conference in Canberra. The award was decided by his peers and comes after a 12-year commitment to research, focusing on the rejection of transplant organs. David says he certainly wasn't expecting it.
I honestly did not know that I was going to get an award, so it was such a nice surprise. For once in my life, I was sort of speechless.
David is involved in testing new drugs to overcome the rejection of organs. A large part of his research involves rats and small animals. Last year, 1,125 transplants were performed in New South Wales and the ACT, with a small percent of those having severe rejection problems. David says the award will raise the profile of his research, which has to date been overshadowed by other conditions.
There is high incidence of cancers, and AIDS is a very devastating disease. But it would be nice that if we could get a little bit more recognition and a little bit more money to do the work that we do.
David's yearly budget is between $10,000 and $20,000. He now hopes the award will help attract additional funds. Jenny Crouch, NBN News. The Shortland Preschool has been established in some unused Education Department buildings within the local primary school. It caters for 3 to 5-year-olds and is also offering before and after school care for 5 to 12-year-olds. The centre can accommodate up to 50 children, and Director Amanda Woodcock says the demand is already great.
We have a waiting list for the next 3 years, that's right. So it obviously is an area that needs a community childcare centre, a centre that appreciates the community where they're at.
Ms Woodcock says the centre will cater for the many young families in the immediate area, as well as drawing children from the wider region. She feels the centre's location within the primary school is a major asset.
What's the most important thing about it, of course, is the fact that the children who are going from the preschool are now going to go into the formal education department, something that they're not going to have to make a huge transition, of course, because they're already within the grounds, they're already interacting with the older children.
Ms Woodcock says the success of the centre within the school grounds will see similar operations set up. Jenny Crouch, NBN News. Valanga Koza captivates children. In his traditional costume, he uses song and dance to tell the story of the African people and their culture. For the kindergarten children at Wombrel Public, it was a chance to experience for the first time the sounds and stories of Africa.
Even just his presence, the colour of his skin, things that they're just not used to, his hair and his dreadlocks. They just, they were really excited about it, and they're really interested in the instruments and things because they're things that they haven't seen before.
Considered one of Australia's most talented African musicians, Mr Koza has been touring Australia for 5 years. This performance, part of several workshops organised for local children.
The kids get very excited when they see something unusual, when they see someone from another culture. I guess it's things that they are not exposed to, so they seem to have an interest in seeing it.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.